Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Alumni Association, as president of the 1852 Society, I'd like to welcome you to our first State of the School extravaganza. This is the time when the dean, once a year, is supposed to tell us what's going on in the school and tell us what's going to be happening in the future, and also tell us what we're doing right, and hopefully not tell us too much about what we're doing wrong. I'm supposed to introduce Dean Stoller, but I guess he's the man who doesn't really need any introduction, because anybody in this room who doesn't know who he is by now is really in difficult trouble. So, Dean Stoller.
When I look into the room, I realize that you're dressed up for this event, and I thank you for doing that. Everybody is looking so differently. No white coats, and thank you all for being here. The State of the School is a way for the dean to express what has happened and what I think should happen. And it's also an opportunity for you to assess whether I'm doing the job that I'm supposed to do. And typically this is done on a yearly basis, and I would like to cover much of what has happened. What I'm not going to talk about is some of the capital projects that are, being looked into further. I primarily focus on the operation and what we are going to need to do in the next 1 or 2 years ahead. I need to thank a number of people that are outside our organization with respect to what they have done for us. And the work that some of them have done is enormous to our institution. Particularly, I think the support that I have received from Lee Goldman, Bobby Berkowitz, Linda Fried, Joanne Kwan, Mark McDougall, Ann Taylor, and Bob Venus have been phenomenal. I can tell you, I have worked in other institutions. The support that we get from the top is enormous. The Board of Visitors, a distinguished group of people, have also made major contributions to looking at where we are and where we need to go, and I thank Les Selden for the leadership. The Alumni Board have been bending over backwards to make my transition easy. I would like to thank Julie Connolly, the President, for making this a very good year for me. And finally, Tom Magnani, the president of the 1852 Society, was alongside many of the activities, and I deeply appreciate his friendship and his commitment to the school. And then in addition, there are a few other people that have worked probably almost exclusively for us and are not on our payroll. It's Matthew Brown, Lara Khan, and Bill McCoy. And in addition, Ofra Weinberger has also helped us significantly with some of the issues that we are tackling the years ahead of us. What I would like to do is, looking back at the fiscal year 13-14 and looking forward to becoming a greater, better place. When I came here on August 1st, 2013, I had the feeling that everybody thought that what should happen is basically what happened in all my other places, that I immediately start to restructure and, put people into different places, bring in many new faces, and that didn't happen. In fact, you get the impression that it looks like this. And, the jump that many of you expected didn't occur. And I can tell you that I looked at the numbers, I looked at many aspects of the institution during the recruitment process. But when I arrived, I recognized that the institution is very different from what I thought it is. Instead, the main focus was on serious business analysis, training of the section chairs, getting a deeper insight into the performance of the institution, and starting to engage in a dialogue with our students. The plan of organization that I faced was, we had 5 departments. They're listed here. Everything in blue is pretty much the same what it was. The department here was just renamed following in-depth analysis of where it should go and how it aligns itself with the school as well as the university. And we have 9 deans, and they are all in place. In addition, we have a development office, terribly understaffed, and we have an alumni affairs office, also understaffed. We added a one-man show in communication and recruited Steve Early to help us with some of the IT initiatives that are serious for the school. We engaged in the idea of implementing an XYZ compensation plan, because there was no way that faculty salaries could be and staff salaries could be substantially changed without a new compensation plan structure. We did a deep financial analysis under the leadership of Sarah Patterson into how the operation works and where we spend the money, and we started to initiate discussions about a new funds flow model that we are about to test in 14-15. You should know I signed on the dotted line with a surplus of $4.57 million, but it actually clearly started to become obvious that this was an artifact, that this was just a carryover due to the fact that the Axiom implementation delayed a lot of the billing, and there was a 1-year windfall that ultimately disappeared, and we ended this year with a very minimal surplus of about $100,000. And therefore you recognize the institution is in need of a business plan that leads to growth and leads to a sustainable future, and the investment in itself, which at this point in time has not happened for a long time. Under the leadership of Joanne Kwan, Ronnie Myers, Barbara Karpinska, Michael Breen, and a lot of other people, the McKesson implementation occurred on April 1st, 2014. We expect that it will have a major impact on the funds being generated in the clinic, and it will also probably lead to greater understanding about what is happening. Under the leadership of Barbara Karpinska, the clinic operations were reorganized, and a plan was submitted to the CUMC HR office, and we are in the process of transforming the clinics to greater emphasis on expertise, particularly in the staff arena, and to greater accountability at all levels. The next step is clearly on revenue enhancement and improving the environment for our students, because this is a teaching clinic and the emphasis should be on the teaching environment. The other element that probably was the quickest one for me to learn was understanding the university. The university is different from the place I have been before, but in a way very similar to what I encountered in my previous employment in Michigan and in Switzerland. It's part of a university system that we consider the premier universities in the world, and Columbia is ranked number 8 on probably the most prestigious index, the Shanghai Index. There are 16 US universities, 3 UK universities, and 1 Swiss university among the top 20 universities in the world, and gives you an idea about the strength of US higher education worldwide. Clearly understanding the backdrop of which university we are part of, and recognizing that mission alignment has to match up with what the university cares about. There are only 5 dental schools in the top 20, and we should actually use them as some peer comparisons, and I will do that with a number of issues that is going to be part of this presentation. It is basically, us, Columbia, with the Mother University in rank number 8, Harvard in number 1, Penn in number 15, UCSF in number 16, and University of Washington in number 18. And all these universities have one goal, the goal for achieving excellence, preeminence in science, and making a difference for the world. What has happened over this year is we started some fundamental analysis and developed the first level of key performance indicator of where we are with respect to our peers and where we are with respect to the potential that is in our institution, did some gap analyses on a number of fronts, and are in the process of looking deeper into many of the activities that are going on in our institution. With respect to research, I'm going to give you data with comparing us to our peer institutions. With respect to scholarship, Dr. Carol Ganzel's office is looking more carefully into data about the scholarship that is happening within CDM. For teaching and learning, I performed myself an analysis on the curriculum with respect to what is there and what I think is missing in my mind, and I will have to engage the faculty in a discussion relative to the gap analysis that I have performed. The teaching clinics have been clearly, positively affected by the action of Dr. Ronnie Myers and Barbara Kapinska, and we will still look into ways of enhancing revenue, and probably will engage in a review of our operation to align it with some of our peer institutions that probably see better performance when it comes to return on the investment. The service review has been done by Bert Edelstein and Joe McManus, and I have received at this point in time a verbal report, and I'm still awaiting the final report, and therefore I will probably not deeply talk about that aspect. We met with the CUMC and started the process of space programming and planning with respect to our future. And Michelle Cooper, who has been leading the space survey for the nursing school as well as for the planning of the graduate medical education building, will be leading the gap analysis for CDM. We also started, on the pressure of our students, a closer look into the tuition, ultimately trying to come up with a clear statement about how much it would cost you for being, with us for 4 years on day one, something that we would like to achieve in the next 2 or 3 years, that we have an ability to let our students know exactly what it's going to cost. And I'm going to give you some data on comparisons. With respect to research, this is measured mostly in terms of the NIH funding. Data, these are very complicated data, and they were generated by a member of our board of visitors, Dr. Jay Lipton. James has actually done quite a few analyses for me, and I'm deeply grateful for what he has done. When it comes to the key performance indicator of comparing us to Harvard, UCSF, Penn, and Washington, in terms of NIH funding, we are number 5. UCSF clearly ahead of everybody with a total of $76 million being granted during the year 2009 and 13. Comparing this to the environment so that we have some kind of a relationship, looking at the medical school at Columbia ranks 4 among the 5. But you should also notice that the difference among the medical schools is not as stark as the difference among the dental school. And clearly, there is something missing in our school with respect to the investment in research. When it comes to the productivity, the number of publications generated over the last 5 years, again, this data set is extremely complicated and validated multiple times. And again, Jim Lipton is responsible for it. We rank number 5 in terms of publication, have produced 224 publications, were cited 2,188 times. However, when you look at the number of citations per publication, we rank number 3, indicating that the publications are probably, much more impactful than some of our competitors. When it comes to Harvard ranks number 1 in all aspects, and the others, are different. For instance, Washington ranks number 3 with respect to publications, number 3 with respect to number of citations, and number 5 with respect to impact. This is a way for us to get an understanding about, what kind of future recruitment and emphasis we should explore as we move forward. This is data, again, put together by Carol Gunzell, and it lists all the companies and foundations that support us in year 13-14 to a total amount of $2.5 million. And the list of companies is something that you can basically see displayed on this slide. We were hiring, recruiting 4 investigators with research programs. 2 come from the Jeremy Moore Lab, 1 comes from Case Western University, and 1 comes from the Physician and Surgeon Orthopedics Department. It is Millie Embry, Yiping Han, Chang Li, and Daniel Oh. Millie does some exciting research on stem cells. Yiping Han brings in a kind of aspect to our program that is terribly needed. She deals with the oral microbiome and possibly, consequences throughout, various disease processes in the body, fitting into this thinking of comorbidity of oral disease and the oral environment very nicely, and will be able to substantially, upgrade our understanding for our students, for our faculty, with respect to this emerging biology that is going to be critical for, oral health. Chang Li is an engineer, so is Daniel Oh. Very different emphasis. Chang has, an understanding of the molecular processes and tries to regenerate tissues using molecular phenomena. Daniel is a physicist and engineer and creates, scaffolds that, by the very fact that, the physical properties are in a certain way, tissues can be regenerated. Millie, Chang, and Daniel are on the tenure track, and Yiping comes tenured to Columbia. I think if you have been dean before, you probably look at this transition very differently than if you do it the first time. And clearly, I would like to make use of the tremendous investment that previous deans have done, and not to basically do a turnaround, because the institution has been focusing for 20 or another time 10 years in a certain way, and therefore talent was developed and resources were allocated, and we need to figure out how these resources fit into the future. I'm terribly appreciative of Alan Formacola for having been a tremendous ally in helping me to get settled here. He has left a legacy with Dentcare that is enormous. He was clearly a pioneer in reaching out to the community, using the community as a platform for both research as well as education. And in looking at the program, I realized that this program will be very important for us in the future, particularly when you look at the goals of the university, which are high impact science, social justice, a presence in Manhattanville, and a presence globally, and therefore moving Dent Care into an academic home, linking it with the education, linking it with research, is becoming a very important part of getting the school mission aligned, particularly in a university where the Nobel Prize is the only standard that really counts, given the fact that Columbia has more Nobel Prizes than any other institution in the world. When it comes to Dean Lamstel, he made significant investment in the science infrastructure and engaged the institution in the thinking of comorbidity, particularly the role of dentists in primary care. And I would like to probably take the theme and build around this theme in terms of creating some kind of a comorbidity science, something that is very, very timely and could actually help us building a stronger bridge between CDM and PNS. Clearly in the scope of mission alignment. And then we have to figure out how the global initiatives fits into the overall picture. Global, we have many activities going on, and we need to figure out how these fit into research and education in order to make it work. The media star this year was Panos Papapanou. He got more hits in the media than anybody else, particularly for his work of coming up with a possible genetic classification of gum disease, and I would like to congratulate Panos for making that happen. I think the institution, particularly under the leadership of Carol Gunzel, started to recognize that we have a new standards to comply with, the CODA Standard 6, which calls for dental education must provide students with the opportunities to experience research, including but not limited to biomedical, translational, educational, epidemiological, and clinical research. Such activities should align with clearly defined research mission and goals of the institution, and that's something that we are in the process of working on, and thanks, Carol, for your initiative in this arena. Much work went into the visiting professor program. Ralph Kaslik and also Jim Fine worked on the fall program. It's going to be on precise and personalized healthcare opportunities and challenges in dentistry and future implication. And we are grateful to the director of the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research, Dr. Martha Sommerman, that she has accepted the responsibility to be our visiting professor for the event on October, which, by the way, I should mention, is Giving Day, and we will celebrate these events together. Jeremy Mao had a very successful talk a little bit about some of the global initiatives that I was involved with. Jeremy Mao had a absolutely spectacular event in Beijing. We had a reception for all the deans, and about 60 deans showed up. A lot of students showed up, and we hosted them at our Columbia Global Center in Beijing, and that was an event that was very, very much talked about in many circles. Here you see everybody lined up. It looks like when I look at the first row here. You sit very straight. In Japan, we had an official invitation of our Japanese sister school, and a number of us were present to give presentation. It was an event that solidified, the relationship that has been going on for many, many years. And in terms of alumni events, I should also mention that Sean Lal has engaged with students in a number of activities globally and is building a program that actually melts, global activities with education. And thanks Sean for doing that. With respect to alumni events, we had alumni events in San Diego, San Francisco, Houston, Orlando, Boston, Osaka, Beijing, San Antonio, and a range of activity in New York. And we also had, 2 meetings with the Board of Visitors that were, crucial for us to build on the existing board and trying to use the board in an effective way to move forward. Giving you an idea, many of these functions I met people, and often I was surprised that the people that I met, I knew them from Michigan, because there was probably a great interaction between, getting a degree, an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree in one or the other institution. You cannot imagine how many people that are alumni here I knew from previous time. This is a reception where Letty is in best shape. She hangs around the young kids and tells them what is good and what is not. And this was a reception that we had for our alum in the San Francisco areas. This is the later part of the evening after all the older folks disappeared, and the young kids were hanging around with the 2 oldies, both Letty and myself. We had an astonishing year when it comes to fundraising. And thanks Jerry and Tom for making this happen. The numbers are phenomenal. Look at 2014, we raised a total of $5.1 million compared to 2013, $2 million. And more importantly, 3.7 million of that was in cash. Thank you, alumni, for making that happen, and keep up the good work and continue to help us, supporting us at that level. Giving Day was also phenomenal. We were raising $116,000, came in second place in terms of alumni participation. The university gave us a prize of $20,000 for that, and we came in 10th, being probably one of the smallest schools when it comes to amount raised, which gave us another prize of about $3,600. 2014 lists dentistry as the 3rd most desirable profession. Ahead of us are IT professions, and today when you look at physicians are ranked number 8. Clearly we are in a world where many people that at one point in time probably wanted to become a physician today want to be a dentist. And therefore it's probably important for us to look a little bit into the environment of education, particularly the cost of education. We are looking at here the pre-doctoral tuition and fees of a number of institutions that usually are our competitors. Columbia total cost, tuition and fees, $377,588, ranked number 2, and number 2 means the second lowest. Harvard being lower at $363,000, and all the other institutions, Tufts, BU, NYU, and Penn, are higher. NYU is highest in terms of pre-doctoral tuition and fee. When it comes to total cost of attending the school, and this is a combination of tuition, professional fees, instruments, clinic supplies, health insurance, living costs, and non-residential differential where applicable. You see the highest is NYU with $472,790, almost $500,000. And UCLA is the lowest with about $353,000, and we are at the level of $393, comparable to the University of Washington and UNC. When it comes to the postdoctoral tuition and fees, this is compiled by the Office of Postdoctoral Education. I think Yolanda has been heavily involved in getting these data together. We are looking at endo, where Columbia has the lowest tuition. Orthodontics, Columbia has the lowest tuition. Penn has the highest for orthodontics. And in perio and in prosthodontics, we are ranked number 2 in terms of lowest tuition. The lowest one is actually at NYU. Higher, for instance, a comparison, endo at BU is $88,000 and prosto at BU is $84,000. The admissions committee and the office of Laureen Sugiari have basically dealt with an applicant pool of 2,056 students. 80 were admitted. The DAT was 23 on average. Their science DAT was 23. Their GPA was 3.63, and their science GPA was 3.62. 43 were males, 37 were females. Their average age was 24, and 20% were minorities. 16 came from U.S. From different U.S. states. Total of 58 colleges were involved in the background of these students, and 4 were accepted from an international location. When it comes to the graduating class, 5 went to private practice, 5 to AHED, 34 to GPR, 1 to the armed forces, 6 to orthodontics, 7 pedodontics, 3 periodontics, 2 prosthodontics, 1 year OMS 1, 4 year OMS 3, and 6 year OMS 8. 91% of our students went to advanced training. Typically in a state school it's about 33%, Michigan it's about 60%, 91% is exceptional, and it tells you that our students use this as a stepping stone to get to places where they want to be. When it comes to the administration of the academic program, it was clear early on that this is a very stressed situation, and the support that is available to Dr. Salentine is probably inefficient given the complexity of the operation that is involved here. We are dealing with the DDS degree program, and then of course we have the postdoctoral degree certificates that are managed by Dr. Fine, and we have something that is very important to us, student dual degrees that are initiated because students would like to engage in activities that get them places and would like to probably do this in combination with DDS degrees. In particularly in the class of 2014 we had 6 such students that earned other degrees while in dental school, and therefore just that management alone is offering a lot of complexity in itself, that it became clear that this part is very stressed, and we need to help the organization to find a better way to deal with it. My review of the program is such that we have a day-to-day operation. We have a very delicate and very meaningful PNS interface that is part of the Columbia brand of the College of Dental Medicine. We have to deal with curriculum innovation, and at the same time we have to engage in a self-study that is part of the accreditation. And you recognize this is a huge effort that will need significant attention in the coming year. When it comes to my gap analysis in the curriculum, I think we probably don't do enough when it comes to moving our students into the information age. When it comes to personalized education, we should probably be a little bit more aggressive with dual degrees. Population oral health is being addressed by the department that is chaired by Dr. Edelstein, And when it comes to comorbid condition, the conditions that coexist and probably have some kind of a mechanistic underpinning between those in the mouth and other parts of the body is something that clearly needs to get a greater focus. And certainly, recruitments that have been ongoing as well as probably need to be done have to focus on this. At the same time, faculty development is becoming a critical part of the future. Faculty development, in my mind, has probably not been to the level of where it should be, particularly in light of the fact that significant disruption in terms of technology and understanding of the information age is about to come. The first effort to going digital will be met by a broad committee that was put together by Jim Fine and Shelby White, and it will involve students. I think that's something that is going to be very important, that the students are going to be part of the re-engineering of many aspects of the curriculum, because there are areas today where the students actually outperform the teachers, particularly in areas of technology. And for that reason, we would like to give the students an opportunity to help us shape, the future. The Digital Dentistry Committee that I would like to announce is made up of a number of people, carefully, covering all aspects of the institution, including students from a number of classes, both in pre-doctoral as well as the residencies. And the committee will use sounding boards to, figure out whether, some of the ideas that the committee will bring together are, probably aligned with some of the ideas that the institution has or what is out there. And there will be a sounding board on users, a sounding board by additional students, and a sounding board by faculty. This committee will ultimately report to the section chairs and the dean for final analysis, particularly in terms of investment of the institution into bringing in these technologies. It has to be widespread. It has to reach, the grassroots, because of the fact that the transformation is something that we need to do very, very quickly. And we hope to be able to leapfrog the institution into the future using this broad-based input that is necessary in order to allow that to happen. Clearly, when you talk to students, teach us what we will be doing, don't teach us the old stuff. And with disruption ahead of us, particularly with the use of technology, we need to be sensitive to the fact that our students need to practice in an environment that is very different from what we have encountered ourselves. They understand the technology, and hopefully together we can come up with a way of jump-starting the institution and getting us ahead of the majority of institutions in the country. This is a time when dentistry moves from the industrial age to the information age. The good part about it is that we have 21st century students that should become 21st century leaders. And it is this environment that we need to, foster. At the same time, faculty development is going to be crucial. I can tell you, I have been moving from an analog school into a digital school overnight. And it was the students that made the difference, because there is no other way that we can actually make that jump, given the fact that the faculty development has been lagging in many, many dental schools to the degree that it will be very, very difficult to leapfrog into the future. There have been, what I would like to do in the next few slides is to give you an idea about what this means, the information age. The information age is a very different thinking about the world and about the tools that we are using. And many companies needed to rethink their strategies. For instance, the semiconductor industry, Intel and Qualcomm and many others, they started to realize they just cannot produce chips anymore because the hardware is too complicated to figure out for with respect to what can be done with it. And therefore, the software has to be parallel, it has to be developed in parallel with the hardware. And that thinking is something that everybody needs to get in their mind. For instance, in the industrial age, we have a dental chair that is absolutely mechanically perfect. Could be the best chair that you can imagine. But in the information age, that chair, that is the best chair possible, becomes worthless if it is not integrated, if it is not networked, if it doesn't have an Ethernet connector, because everything needs to talk and listen. Everything needs to be linked into this big data concept that is about to become a reality in dentistry. And if you think the old way, you think like Kodak, because Kodak had the best film. And look what happened. We have the best dental equipment, but look what's going to happen. The fact that it doesn't network, it is not in the information age, will make it obsolete. What, as an institution, we need to become sensitive about is that hardware-software integration for any new technology that delivers novel functionality for the future of our student requires both hardware and software development in parallel. And to be successful, hardware and software need to arrive together in market-ready devices. I think at one point in time, I tried to do it after the fact. I can tell you, you never have enough resources to do so. We need to be sensitive to the fact that if the software is not there, it ain't going to happen. Given the complexities involved, software functionality rather than hardware attributes has become the key factor in choosing digital technologies. Software integration is not an afterthought. The future is software, firmware, the ability of hardware to talk to software. That's what the information age is all about. I was approached by a few companies to ask, and they asked me about, can Columbia become the concept car of dentistry? And I think we can. I think the mindset is here. I think we have a number of very, very bright people, and we have sophistication in dentistry, and it's the ability of the faculty to take what we do well and figure out how it goes into the information age. That's what this is all about. And there's one aspect why companies look at Columbia. It's because of the fact there's another disruption on the horizon, because biology becomes information too. When you look at the genome, it's purely about information. The ability to manage sequences of zeros and ones that determine, what we are, and bringing everything together to create, that kind of environment, that platform that is truly Columbia-like, should get us back into the fold of the university, mission align us, and hopefully getting a few partners that help us to jumpstart us to get into that arena. I would like to thank everyone for giving me this extremely warm welcome. I thank, my deans for helping me to get to understand the place. I would like to thank Teresa for, making sure that my tie looks good. And Elsa, Yolanda, Zoila in the Dean's office for the support they give us. I would like to thank the faculty for being patient and talking to me about things that should happen and maintaining a dialogue. I particularly appreciate, the input of students in trying to help us make it a better place. I can tell you I'm extremely fond of the students at Columbia. They are brighter than I have ever seen, and I appreciate working with them. I thank the staff for your daily input and your willingness to make this a better place. Overall, thank you for your attention. Are there any questions? There must be a question from the students, isn't it? Victor, you sit in the front row. Somebody that sits in the front row could ask a question. No. You know, the state of the school is supposed to give you an idea whether I'm off base, whether I'm sort of seeing the institution the way it should be viewed, and it's an ability for you to give me some feedback, you know, how well I do my job. Yes, Vicky. You want to come? You want to come to the microphone?
I think I speak very loud.
Repeat the question.
I haven't said the question.
Okay. She hasn't said the question. I repeat it. Yes.
The question is, what are the goals for fundraising for in the next, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 years?
The question is, what are the goals for fundraising? Tom, would you like to answer that?
Want me to come up and answer that?
Yes. I would like to make him, he should make a commitment, what we're going to do.
Well, the goals for fundraising in the next 5 years, we have our 100th anniversary coming up, and I would like to raise $100 million by the end of the 5th year. That's our goal. It's a lofty goal, but I think we can attain it. We're working with numbers of people that are wanting to partner with us and wanting to, you know, use our brains for the future. Dean Stoller certainly has a vision that no one else has in the country, and Henry Schein is certainly trying its best to get Dean Stoller's vision to be part of their institution. And we have partners in Finland, we have partners in Switzerland, we have different partners in the United States that are really trying now to become aligned with us. And I don't think that that's going to be a very hard goal to attain. We're going to have to call all our alumni, and we're going to have to, you know, really try to raise money through other sources, but $100 million is what we really, Dean Stoller wanted 126 million, but I'm going 100.
I haven't talked anything about the building or any other initiative that happens globally or you know, in the state of New York. And the reason why I haven't done that is that, you know, there is a time and there is a place. And I'm not prepared to, you know, report on these initiatives because of the fact they haven't matured to the point for me to talk about it. But probably around, you know, January, February, I will give you some feedback on these initiatives so that you are better in the loop about what is happening there. I also, you know, I think it was buried in my slide, but, you know, looking at the well-dressed gentleman in the front, I have asked Joe McManus to help us a little bit about, you know, the understanding of future reimbursement system, because, you know, our students live in a world that is very, very different. We need to become sensitive to what are the reimbursement paradigms that are going to shape the future, and Joe, with a number of people, are working on a project trying to get a deeper understanding into the heads of our students as to how they maneuver through the next generation, where probably, you know, the solo practitioner becomes the exception, and, you know, different kind of practice paradigms are going to evolve. Any other? I think probably we also need to recognize Dennis Mitchell for, you know, the new appointment as the Vice Provost for Minority Affairs, and Dennis, congratulations to you for achieving that. And well, thank you. It's now ice cream social. This is totally out of the box, and, you know, who would actually serve ice cream for lunch? But we are going to do that. Thank you.